This is the Dog Psychology Podcast with Linn, Todd Langston, and Art Ortiz.
Today we're going to talk about leadership and what that really means. That word is thrown around a lot, and so we want to, in our own words, kind of figure out what that is and just kind of talk about that, have a discussion about those things, because I think there's a big misconception of what leadership is. So what do you guys think?
Linn, carry on.
Now, I just talked, and I don't know that I can do it again. I'll do it again, but I think maybe you want me to, okay, because we are talking about the video that I put up the other day.
Yeah, so Linn posted a video of a dog walking with him. And go ahead and describe that, Linn.
So I think that leadership is a overused word. I think that people just tag it on and say you're not the leader. I got sick of it in my early days. Every time I got over to a client's house and they say, I know I'm not a good leader. I'm like, who's telling you that? The 5 other trainers they had before. So I think that it's used to accuse. I think it's misused. And when I see people making the dog stay next to them as if that's the definition of what a leader is, it's all wrong. There's nothing wrong with teaching a dog with food to stay next to you. It can adapt to that, but that is your leadership isn't what's helping them stay next to you at that point. It's a conditioning. And I truly believe, I was telling you guys earlier, I'm not meant to be a leader. I would be a great authority figure for a really good leader. It's too much responsibility in my eyes. And I was saying that the bigger the reach a leader has, the less accessibility that you have for them. And if we're talking about dogs, you want to be accessible all the time. And on my first business cards for Zen for Canines, it said lead by example. I don't use the term anymore, lead, but I use control, and self-control is the most noteworthy representation of control. If you have self-control, that vibe comes off of you, and the dogs want to be near it. They follow purpose.
Right? To play devil's advocate, there's plenty of people I've actually spoken to that are friends of mine that, or I want to say plenty of people. A friend of mine went on an appointment with me, and he thought the word control sounded inappropriate.
I was thinking the same thing, by the way.
And so this is where interpretation of definition, you know?
Well, it's my rule number 1, actually, always be in control. And the whole point of everything I do is there is no positive without a negative, and there is no negative without a positive. And if someone hears the word control and immediately goes to negative, then we.
But hold on. I didn't immediately go to negative. Everything's not so clearly black and white. But that's what I'm saying is, in the interpretation of it, we're selling this as much as anything,
right?
And so, yeah, what is the easiest way to get people to understand it? Well, I mean, what's the simple way to say, hey, you're the decision maker?
Well, they have to define that. They have to define. I mean, that goes with any word, right? And so, I mean, when I go to people's houses, they say stuff like, I just know I need to be alpha, and I say, what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly.
What does that mean? And then usually it's like, oh, I don't know. I got to show them who's boss. What does that mean? So
my dog goes, I'm the leader. Then what am I doing here?
Right. And so it's like, what do they need to? They have to define what that means to them, because different words have meaning, right? So what does that word mean? So leadership can mean, people throw that word out there, but they don't really know what it means. They just say, wow, I got to be a leader because I saw it on TV or whatever. I saw it on Instagram.
Do you still use the phrase, the emotion, but the words you choose or the emotions you use? Is that still somewhere?
The words you choose end up becoming the actions you use, right?
Okay.
So you got to be very careful. And I'm specific with every word I use when it comes to dog. My version of dog psychology, I spread it out. And so being in control, the whole point is to find out who is going to see it in a negative, because I'm not talking about be controlling. Anything you take with force, you have to maintain it with force.
Oh, I understand that.
Oh, I know. You said your friend said it, and I'm talking to anybody who sees it that way. I
Yeah.
get that it's there. I want it to be there. That's part of the rule. It breaks down. If someone is being controlling, then they're breaking rule number one. That's the whole point.
So what's the difference between, see, so this is the part, and I'll even use this for an example for people, the difference of control, like the difference of taking control and being given control. Like I there's a tangible difference for me, and I mean I can know the difference in my trajectory in my career, where I used to think, if you want to call it leadership or being in control, meant taking it,
That
and that's, you know what I mean. And then there was some transition along the way where you realize, no, it's the process of having it given to you. You know, that the true nature of control is it's handed over to you as opposed to taking.
Well, I'm glad that you said that because, like I said, every single word in everything that I have for what I teach is there for a specific reason. And so, in rule number one, always be in control. There are many forms of control. Self control is the most noteworthy form, meaning you can take control. You can inherit control. You can be voted into control. There's so many ways of control, but when you have control of your dog, that does not mean you're in control of your dog. So I have control of my dog. He's not going to bite you. That does not mean you're in control of the dog so that they don't feel they need to bite anybody. So the whole point of that word for me is to draw in and get you deeper into the rule number one. So somebody establishing control, here's the other part, is very important. Maintaining control is so much more valuable than regaining control. And if you have to constantly take control, then you never were in control. That's the entirety. You know, it goes deep. Everything I have is specifically designed to take you under the surface. I don't want people to have a bunch of techniques or words that lay on the ground like dead leaves that fly away. I want this one little thing popping up under the surface that's attached to an entire system underneath the ground, so that when it comes up, it's solid. It's not going anywhere. Anyway, but did that answer your question, Todd?
I forget what my question was.
Had that effect.
Well, I think, I mean, that we kind of segued off because, you know, we talking about what the word control was, like, because some people have
Right.
a
Started off
negative.
as leader. There you go.
Yeah, some people think of it negatively. No, and I agree. But that same thing with leadership, you know, or, you know, what does that mean? What does leadership mean? Like, what does that mean? Can we break that down?
Pack leader. I always use quotes.
Pack leader, yeah. So, you know, leadership is, you're drawn to it. You know, real leadership, you're drawn in by it. And whether somebody told you about the leader or you heard something and you dig in and you try to find it and you discover it, and then you follow that leader. Sometimes you're hired into someone being a leader. Just somebody with a badge or a rank or an ownership does not equal leadership, right? I want to follow a leader. I want to die for a leader, a good leader, but I'm not going to risk myself for somebody who just is placed in a position of leadership that doesn't know how to communicate, at least with their authority figures, who then can communicate with the followers. As far as dogs, everybody feeds their dog. Everybody gives affection to their dogs. Everybody, sort of walks their dog or throws a ball for their dog. But that still isn't leadership. Those are the basic. That's like putting dirt in a thing for your plant and then putting water. That's the basic needs for it, right? So the enrichment part of those needs is where great leaderships happens. You take your dog, your family on journeys. You provide them not just I put food in there every day, but you never clean the bowl. It's constantly, you don't realize that the company sold to another company and cheapened the ingredients. You're not focused on the priority, which is your followers and the safety and comfort and mindset, all of those things. You guys are closer to Caesar and everything there. So I'm sure that you guys are going to have some great understandings for everybody to hear about leadership. I'm a resistor. I don't want to, I don't want to be a leader. I'll take it. Look, my motto is lead, follow, or get the fuck out of the way. If I have to have it, I'll do it. But I don't want it. I don't want it.
What do you think, like, Art, when you're, the TCWs, the leading the groups and so forth? I mean, it's a step out of my not comfort zone. It's a step out of my day-to-day activities. You know what I mean? I mean, my strength is not going to be that level of organization and so forth. But ultimately, there's always people above me to take away the high level of responsibility.
I just watched you being a great leader to your daughter. I just watched. Huh?
Oh, I'm talking about in terms of, groups, a large group through an experience with expectation. And, the pressure, the first time I did the TCW, definitely the first one, I would like, take like Dramamine, like a little quarter of a Dramamine, because they'll kind of sedate you a little bit, like relax you. And I was like, because I had no idea what to do. And what I knew was there, an expectation of leadership is a lot of pressure, an expectation of having to take a lot of people through an experience. And I knew what to do, but it's interesting, the pressure of true leadership. And I don't think many people are leaders. I think very few. I mean, it's by design, right? There's very few.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
If you think
the way it works.
If you think about it, let's say there are only 10 packs of wolves in the world, and that means there's only 10 leaders, right? If one of those leaders dies, somebody in that pack of 9 has to step up. Generally, if it isn't going to work, I mean, there is somebody that's going to take over. But if it doesn't, they just kind of dissipate. Now we've got 9 packs of 11.
Well, on the term, how would you define it? So to me, Art, like it's in its most simple form is you're the one with the plan, right? So the true leader of the group is the one with the plan, and there's a million reasons in the human world why they'll follow it, but you're the one with the plan and the strongest ability to enforce the plan. And that can mean a variety of things, but I guess that's what leadership would mean to me. And to your point, Linn, with the dogs, no, I was just going to do a post the other day where I'm out walking, and we have a bunch of deer out right now. The babies are born at the beginning of June. And so we got deer everywhere, and Blue is predatory. Or she would, when I first got her, I had to use an e-collar because the first few times she saw a deer, it was just gone. And so with just fulfillment and basic stuff, she's left the deer alone, but she still gets excited. Not like chase them excited, but alert excited. And I was going to do a post to the point of, do you correct that? Does that need to be addressed? And, I could immediately get her back in the whole follow mindset. To your point, it's not about this heel. It's about the concept of follow. And they can follow from in front. I mean, it's not about the positioning. Leadership's not about positioning. It's about mindset.
Yeah, my question on that post was, do you want your dog right next to you? Is that what you think a leader is? Or do you want your dog right with you? The mind, right. The mental position is all I care about. The physical position is easy to change. But if you've got your dog who's constantly, and if you watch the videos where I'm walking with my dog or any of the dogs, they've got amazing, incredible peripheral vision, right? And so if this is the head and you're walking and you see this a lot, they're just checking in with you. If your dog isn't checking in with you, you're not, I don't care if you got a leash or a bag of treats, you're not the one that they're with. Being with me is different than standing next to me. Let's just put it that way.
Sure.
Yeah. So one of the things the phrases I always say is the dog with me? If I'm on a walk, is the dog walking with me or against me? That's one that I think. And Linn, you've been hiking out here with me with all the dogs when you brought your dog Long Socks and we went hiking out there. I mean, that was honestly a really memorable moment that we had because, and my wife was there and my son River. And remember how the dogs just kind of like took off and they're up there on the hill, kind of just running around, and then they came back, and then we walked back. They just all kind of got together with us. That was a really good moment. Yeah. So when we talk about leadership, like what are we providing, right? We're providing this environment that you get to be a dog. You get to go use your smell. You get to experience seeing. It's the experience, right? You get to experience smelling all that grass and explore and do all these other things, and then all right, we're ready to go. Let's pack it up. Let's go in. And time to go home now. We all come back. We all just, and they weren't per se like with us, like walking in a straight line. They were just kind of like a little bit in front of us, but they were still with us. Like they weren't like what?
They were aware of us.
But you guys also understand, your own limitations with each dog, and you wouldn't have allowed certain things with the, so it doesn't ever get as far as needing to intervene with, the knowledge and experience of knowing, hey, that dog's not ready for this situation. So it has a long line or the e-collar or the vet, whatever it takes to keep that mindset you're talking about, Art. At this point, it's done so seamlessly. That's some of the small stuff that's hard to get the people to understand.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I was gonna say, and this is where I think Caesar's, one of the things that makes Caesar so good is that it's not anything but that when early on, when he was trying to get the information out, he had a lot of professional people teach him how to phrase things in ways that made it easy for people to learn things. And exercise, discipline, affection, I think, is probably the most usable. If you follow it, it means leadership, it means fulfillment, it means literally every aspect of it. And I think that's one of the most usable phrases that come from him is that. And it creates then the outcome for what you guys were talking about.
Yeah, so providing is what you're talking about there. And that is what a great leader does. He provides, or she provides, they provide, not only...
and now is they a singular or are they a plural?
I'm just throwing in whatever pronoun. I'll just say it. When I said he, I like, oh gosh, I better back that up.
Better balance that out with a she, man.
Yeah. And what people don't understand on that, I don't, when I say you a lot, it doesn't mean you. I just am so used to saying you from growing. I didn't know all the pronouns. But it's terrible that you can't just say a he or a she and without hearing or feeling that people are looking at you. So they lose listening to you because of a single word that meant nothing in a negative way. But at any rate, you made a point there a second ago, Todd, that I really wanted to chirp in on, and that is being able to handle the freedom. And a lot of dogs are constantly blamed for they're bad, they can't handle the freedom, and it's true. But the most important part, if we're talking leadership, is most humans, owners, are not qualified or able to handle the freedom to provide. So the dog, of course, is going to take advantage of the freedom. So taking advantage of the freedom I provide is fantastic. Taking advantage of the freedom and doing whatever you want is not. So every word has both sides to it. So yes, if you want your dog to enjoy the freedom and be respectful of it, understand what freedom is in that context.
You know what I find amazing is the that people are constantly surprised by something that's happened, 2, 3, 4 times. Yeah. And they get caught flat-footed or act like, it's the first time.
That's never happened before.
Yeah, it's never happened before. Or
first time today, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Oh, my dog does it for no reason. Okay, show me. And then before we get there, okay, he's going to do this and get ready because this is going to. So you do know. It's not.
So
it's not.
First of the reverse happens too. So that this little dog I have, I worked with them last week, and on their way out the door when we were done with the appointment, I had them videotape something because we're standing at the door, and I'm like, just don't touch the leash or anything. I go, just let them follow you out. And she's like, don't hold the leash. I'm like, no, don't hold the leash. I go, what do you picture happening? I go, let's talk about what you see right now. And she goes, I go, you see him just bolting off, don't you? She goes, yes, he's just gonna. I go, so you just see him just like, look, I'm pointing out, I go, just bolting out the door and just going up the street. She's like, yes. I go, so that's what you see. I go, yes.
That's what you
go, okay. I go, are you ready? And so she allowed it to happen. And when he went out, I will have to say that when he got to the driveway, he wandered, which I wasn't expecting him to do. I was expecting him to stay more with us. But I had him do it 3 times. And on the 3rd time, it was perfection. And so they got so much out of seeing something like you have to challenge your expectations. That's the other thing about the whole leadership thing, is that so many people create the wrong limits. They create limits for their dog based on their own nervousness of the moment. That's a limit. Believing your dog can't follow you to your car is establishing a limit that doesn't exist outside of the one in your mind. So you're making your limit their reality. And I think those are the underscores of leadership that people don't understand when they say, well, why does your dog do this or that? And they don't realize that we have to swallow a lot of discomfort in thinking about things for our dogs to be comfortable. That's leadership, right? You don't get out of that. You don't get to stand at the door and be afraid and then expect your dog to behave. You get one or the other. And so that's the part too, is that I don't know anybody that's good at this that doesn't choose to make themselves better. Nobody.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the second time you said that, by the way, and you're totally right.
But you know what I'm saying? And think about it, Art. I mean, I've known you for a long time, and we've known each other through a lot of varieties of life. So I've known you now going on 10 years. And so that means I've seen kids, and I've seen wife, and I've seen, up and down. And not too long ago, calling me for, hey, Todd, I'm going, hey, can you help me here? Because we're just apart enough, almost like on a brother situation and experience in the dog world that we can pass some knowledge on. And that's what I'm saying, is that nobody's left flat-footed. And the people that I know that don't get burned to shit. And their whole, I mean, it wears you down. You gotta take care of yourself, and you gotta make yourself a priority. So that's leadership.
Yeah. And great leaders also refer out or they listen. They'll listen, and then they'll take action.
Well, I will say, I totally agree with what you just said, Todd, about it does start with you, what leadership is, And so, I mean, I've kind of came to this discovery of probably like 2 years ago, because I was kind of letting myself go. My body's, just letting go. And I was like, if I want to do this for a long time, I've got to be healthy, right? And then even taking care of my kids, I want to be able to carry them as long as I can, And so when we talk about leadership, what is, and there was just a lot I started thinking about so many things at once. And I was, when I was, that person came up to me in River in the parking lot one time, I was threatened, And so I was like, do I have the ability to protect my family? I know I would do it with the dogs, I mean, just the other day, after we had a conversation about being charged by a dog, I actually got charged the next morning by a dog. And I got it on video too. And the dog didn't charge me, ended up charging Ann, who was walking down the street with a client dog, another one of our dogs, and a client. And they were walking down the street, and I was flagging her. I actually got it on video. I should probably upload it.
Yeah,
but
check that out.
So, for me, like, I know what I would do in a situation where I would protect my dogs. But what would I do if someone came up to me and tried to threaten us, And so that's why I said, okay, what am I going to do? Well, how can I protect my family? Well, I'm going to, take jujitsu. I'm going to learn how to self-defense, right? So that was that. But also, it's, doing that I've learned so much other stuff from taking jujitsu, self-defense, self-control, how to be in uncomfortable situations, And so these are all things as a business owner that I've been in very uncomfortable situations, how to deal with employees, difficult employees. And so all these things that I've done, I would say in the last year, is to quote unquote be a better leader. How am I providing for my family, right? What am I providing for them? What am I providing for the dogs? What am I providing for myself? How am I protecting myself? How am I protecting my family? How am I protecting my dogs? How am I presiding? How should things go? Todd, you talk about the planning,
Right.
and I will say that Ann and I have recently, because we both have reached out to individual coaches, for ourselves, and so, but because have come together as a family, now we've written out like what our mission statement is as a family, what we're going to provide for our family, what do we want, like, so we've made that very clear, and we've never done that before. We're going to be married 8 years in October, and so, as being a leader, it started with me taking jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
It took one event and then now she does jujitsu. My son also does jujitsu, so we're all doing the same things. But I want to be able to leave a legacy for my family that says it's not just financial stuff. Yes, I want to do that, but I also want to leave a legacy of my son being a good man in this world, and my son Canyon being a good man. And that's passed down from us. That's a legacy that we leave them. So that's how I see leadership is leading ourselves, to lead our families, and to lead the generations after us.
So just a side note from the behavior side of everybody here, if you want to see something entertaining and you go back and watch this podcast, watch our little mannerisms as we talk. I'm noticing I'm noticing it like right there as you were talking about the end of that art, and you're like, you can't let me, because it was a lot of pride in what you've accomplished and what you're doing.
You should be.
And you're right, that ability to protect, naturally it changes things. It changes things in your whole affect. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think that's great.
Don't pay too close attention to my image. If you watch all the episodes so far, I'm the one with ants in his pants. I can't sit still. I'm constantly moving. That's my tics that I have to try and control. And it's funny. I've seen them. I'm like, geez, are their screens moving? Why am I moving left and right, up and down, over? Yeah. So you can learn a lot about people through what they do. You're right.
Well, that show Lie to Me that was about that guy that could see the micro expressions, and do the whole lie detecting stuff. That was intriguing, because I've always assumed that your dogs can see that stuff.
Oh,
your dogs do enough that they can tell when one eye's moving different, and the way that and the way that this moved and that twitched. They know all that. They know what it means.
It's about priority, and for dogs, they rely on all of that with each other. They see every single thing, and it means something. When this means, hey, this is mine, or I want you to slow down, and if you didn't see it, I'll do something that makes it a little more evident for you, and then if that doesn't work, then boom, a sequence. But yeah, as humans, we don't pay so close attention to it. It's instinctual for me, but it's something you can learn, but don't read into every single thing. If somebody says they're looking around and eye contact,
I said, says Linn.
Yeah.
Don't read into every single thing.
I read into everything, but that's the reason why I can say don't read into everything. What I meant by that is don't read something that says if somebody isn't making eye contact with you, they're lying. That thing is not fully explained. What I want people to understand is if somebody isn't looking at you, it may be that they're trying to hide how they feel. It is a form of deceit, being deceiving, but it isn't being deceiving all the time. Does that make sense? So,
well, yeah, because not all things you see in a dog lead to the bad outcome,
especially like a wagging tail,
precluded by something. And yeah, I know exactly. Some dogs might kick ass after their hackles go up and go into just a full FU mode, but that doesn't mean when hackles go up, it means anything about that.
Yeah, you remember Jin, Todd? You remember Jin, little Bruce Lee, the Jindo? She used to run around the field with her hackles all the way from her back around to her chest. That wasn't anything about it. And she was badass, but she would do it out of pride. Boom, boom, boom.
Blue does the same thing by herself with sticks in the woods.
Yeah, see?
She can bring hers up, and I mean, she does it every morning. She gets just excited. She starts grabbing sticks and throwing them around, and her hackles go up. And so, yeah.
It doesn't always mean exact, like the whale eye. I get so angry with people saying the whale eye, whale eye. I'm like, no, the dog is looking the other way, so you're seeing the white of his eyes, for Christ's sake.
Well, the moment somebody starts defining what they're looking at, I'm going to understand that they're in that defining mindset. So they're not in a feel mindset, right? So I'm just going to assume that they're kind of a little, because I remember that. I remember that process. I remember going from the textbook to understanding. So that I just know that they're in like textbook mode. At least they can see it. That's good. At least you know they're looking at the situation and they're reading stuff, right? That's always good. The worst is what they're looking at it and it's like they're looking at wood. like how do you help that person?
Right. So. That video that you guys saw with Bruno, the feral dog, when I posted that the first time, I had all the positive, those people said that I get offended because, I don't like being misunderstood. They said that that's learned helplessness. And I'm like, did you not watch the fucking video? Because why are you picking that dog up? I'm like, well, what dog do you ever know that doesn't need to be picked up at some point in their life? And I got really upset about that because they are using a term, but they're just putting it on somebody that does dog psychology or something so that they can pass it around. That's a bummer. That's not leadership, since that's the topic. That's not leadership at all.
How about fear aggression? That's the one. So basically, to me, everybody who doesn't want their dog to be biting out of kind of bitch reasons always then steers it to the fear reason.
Yeah, they don't want you to judge him. Oh, he's afraid.
Yeah, he's afraid, and they show you a video, and he like covered 100 yards to run up and grab some dude up on the chest.
He could have run 100 yards the other way. But fear is something that even the dogs that are aggressive, they're afraid you're going to dominate them. They're afraid you're going to take their women. You're afraid they're going to take your territory. So it's all fear,
It's funny though to me the emotions behind a lot of that and the reasoning people go through and just like with our families, you don't really describe it honestly completely. Well, he didn't break skin, so
but he grabbed something. Mouth. But at the same time, there is a defense. I would say that defense would be a better way to describe something. If a dog is afraid, he's defending himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier to see too. It's easier to see a dog that's defending.
Doesn't want to fight in the first place.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's much easier to see. Nice. So,
did you say, what was leadership yet there, Todd?
Me? Yeah.
I don't listen to you very much.
That's okay. I don't hear you either. Yeah. Pretty simple. It was about the you got to have the plan. Energy is about your emotional state and your intention. So your intention is your plan. I think it's the overlooked part of leadership because it means you always have to be carrying an outcome in your mind, right? You have to have an expectation of this situation. And then as the situation changes, you have to have an expectation. And I don't think a lot of people are in that active mindset. And because we're always in, thinking ahead or thinking back. So we're used to being with dogs and that triggering an active mindset of that. I can shut it down pretty easy. I can go into I can be around like a chaotic situation with dogs and not be activated if it's not mine. Right. So, it's this ability to go into this fully engaged assessing moment and then have a plan on how to deal with it and then create that outcome. And then when you do that over and over again, the work that, I don't know how you put it, but you were always talking about participation rate, and then when it's your own dogs, it's the ability to take that plan into teaching, right? So how do we know they're learning? Because you're doing less, they're doing more.
Right.
And that's the difference too. A lot of people think they're in charge of a situation. It's like, dude, why do you have to do 7 steps right here? How come this message hasn't gotten across? Like, right, what's missing? Is it the repetition? Is it like I did with my daughter, the erasing? That's a little thing I don't think many people are aware of, that you can erase an unwanted repetition, not with a correction, repeat it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So where the last repetition is now where you're going to want to pick it back up again the next time it happens.
And that's another thing that people don't understand either. If you like the video that I put up the other day with the dog trying to get in the vehicle. I don't know if you saw that one yet, Todd. I actually communicate with a Great Dane.
Yeah.
It's 20 meters away. That right there, people won't watch the whole video because it's 7 minutes long. Well, you watched all the times that the dog wouldn't go in, and I even put them together, really fast. It wouldn't go. The dog barking. People get upset that I'm showing the success. Yeah, okay, the dog got in, he got out, great. And I'll show just as many times. The dog deserves that. The dog put all that effort to get in. I'm not going to worry about my follows or likes. I'm going to show you what that dog learned and the confidence that it gained by showing you how many times successfully. Because if I just end with one time, you look at the weight difference. I failed 20 times. We won once. Yay. Well, this is going to outweigh that. And so I'll show the success over and over again. I want to have, just like you're saying, we'll erase the negative by a new repetition as long as that repetition is the good one. Right?
Well, this dog here, they told me that he'll walk on a treadmill, but he'll poop every time they put him on a treadmill. And so I went to walk, and I was assuming he wouldn't get on it based on that. And sure enough, so I recorded the whole thing, though. Same type of thing. It wasn't as extreme as that dog. But, it took 10 minutes to get him on, to go on it once. And then it was like I could, speed up the repetitions behind it. But it's a lot of waiting. And we're talking about it a couple of points, a little tiny bit of pressure, but mostly waiting. And then just a little itty bitty. And it was more just don't go that way. And then he gets on it, and like you said, then going back and kind of letting him have resets, and
the shitting thing is generally because it's something like I got an interview today, and I need this job. Who doesn't have to take a shit before that, right? It's an instinctual pressure that's got to come out. We're doing something new and maybe frightening. I haven't done it enough to be comfortable with it. I'm not familiar with it. So I got to loosen my bowels.
I would imagine set him on it too. I don't think he's ever walked on it.
Oh.
So he has a starting process to amplify your explanation to make it even worse. Is there's no acceptance even before that. So he's just going from whatever he's doing, I think, to just being set on it.
No.
And then
stage.
And that's why I said when I took him in there, I was expecting him to not walk on it based on what they had told me about how he responded when he was on it. And he did that. He's a typical anxious. Fortunately, he's not vocal like in the whiny sense, but at night they've created a pattern where he barks, I guess, relentlessly for a while until they go get him or go do something. But outside of that, I'm just getting anxiety. This was an environmental shift. The mom has anxiety issues, and she's been very open with me about what she goes through, and it's very interesting. It's very, very similar to this little white dog I had not too long ago, and both pet parents have a very similar anxiety in their bodies, but for totally different reasons. And so they're both expressing it so each dog is the outcome of the anxious expression. So in this dog, it's a clean thing, and the other dog, it was a grooming thing. So this one's like a germ thing. So this dog is going to receive that anxiety, and the other dog was an accessory, right? So $20,000 purse, and the lady never wanted the dog to look one hair out of place, and so it would be groomed a couple times a week, like very, very expensive grooms. And so it was interesting how each dog took that anxiety and what it did with it. This guy has no aggression.
That sounds like OCD though.
They're both. I'm getting it in different expressions. The last one was full blown, dude. The last one was like red zone. Had that last dog been 50 pounds, dude, it would have left a trail behind it of lawsuits and trips to the hospital, and it would have been a terrible situation. It bit so many people so many times. It was just 5 pounds, and this guy's got a lot of the anxious release. I have that real super flipped up spatulated tongue. I got that on video today. You should see how when you
that's right out of the gate.
What do you mean?
That tongue, that spatula.
Well, it's different. In this particular case, it was I was getting it out of a car, and he was just kind of was going to jump off the edge, and so then I started to have to engage him. So anytime you get him thinking and get him engaged, he gets You can see
it could be his perception on how people have engaged him before, and it's caused some stress. And so, with your presence stopping him, he immediately goes, "Oh God, I'm going to get in trouble."
no, the opposite. It's not that. It's
No.
the opposite. Yeah, it's more. It's the anti, where every decision he's made is the decision that's followed. So I mean, you want to go leader. So he's got the plan in the house, and suddenly now his ability to anticipate and like make the move before anything is being disrupted. And you can see it's almost a confused. Hey, what's up, dude? Why am I not jumping right? Why am I not doing this? Well,
Judge Wapner at 4 p.m. Judge Wapner at 4 p.m.
Well, yes. There's definitely elements of that. It's going to be a case that's easy hard. I think easy in the sense that the behaviors will change fast, but we're talking about some things that the owner is going to be quite challenged having to deal with,
because the owner has to change too.
Well, absolutely. And what'd you say, Art? Obsessive?
OCD.
Yeah. So we definitely some elements there, but so far he's a cool little dog. And he's on. I did that post on medications. He's on 3 or 4.
Dude, that's a whole episode in itself. By the way, we should talk about it.
Pin that one.
Well, because we have a dog here right now that we've been working with that was on 17 pills a day.
Jesus
this is like
Christ.
a 40 pound shepherd. And
does he even have any kidneys left?
Dude,
that's a lot of medication.
So bad, right? And so I'm not one to talk about other trainers or veterinary behaviorists. And so the long story of this, or the short story of this dog, is that they had done a virtual session with the trainer, someone that has a bunch of letters on the end of their name, who that they're qualified. I mean they're certified, right? They're a certified trainer. But just because you're certified doesn't mean that you're actually qualified to work with things.
Agreed.
Yeah. And there's a big push to, that's a whole other topic, but to make people certified dog trainers, right? That's a whole other topic. But anyway, so this dog, they did a virtual session with this trainer, and without meeting the dog, they said, I think you should put your dog down because quality of life. Okay. And so I look at the dog, I did an in-home with them, and I look at the dog, and the dog is behind a gate, a baby gate, and just resting there. I'm like, she doesn't look like she has a bad quality of life now. I'm like, yeah, but she's nervous in all these situations. So we tried to recreate all the situations. So before they'd reach out to me, they went to a trainer. They said to put the dog down. They didn't want to do that. So they reached out to a veterinary behaviorist who prescribed all these medications. Okay. And so this dog is always on all these medications. So they bring it in. And so I get with my vet. I'm like, hey, I got this dog on all these medications. What is a plan to wean them off? They're like, you can take them off gabapentin, no problem. You can take them off of trazodone.
You can do the gabapentin pretty quick.
Gabapentin, trazodone, you can take off.
How long for that?
Trazodone, you can stop that right away, can you?
Yeah. Trazodone, gabapentin, you can stop right away. It's the Prozac that you can't. So what we started to do is we started to supplement the Prozac with some CBD. And so started weaning off it took about 6 weeks, I think it was, when we started to wean her off. She's completely off medication now. And so as we started looking into some of these medications, I learned that what gabapentin does, I'll send you the article, Todd, what gabapentin does, it actually stops the brain from building more myelin, from what I understood. And so I'm like, if they're just trying to stop the anxiety, but the dog is still anxious. It's getting to that point where the brain is firing, right? But the dog is still anxious. And so, but the dog is never able to learn past that point.
Oh, because it's not developing any new ability to lay down
to learn
neural pathways for new behaviors.
Right. So I'm like, okay, first of all, it's not working. The dog is still nervous, and so I just look at the dog's nervous. How can we just build a confidence? Let's just do that, And so we've been doing this, and we've had the dog for like 2 months now. Dog is made huge strides, little strides, but huge. And the owners are like blown away, and they're like, yeah, we're really excited that this dog is doing this, and it's taken some time, and the dog is still nervous in a lot of situations, but it's also thriving in other situations. It's doing things it could never do before.
to the point of what you started the conversation about the vet behaviorists. So this people that I'm working with here, they also went to one. So this dog, they haven't left it alone, like to go out on a date or anything like that in years. And when they worked with a veterinary behaviorist, the vet said, anytime you leave the dog and it gets distressed, you are doing damage. So you are traumatizing the dog when they become anxious when you leave them, so they stop leaving them. So they basically said that the veterinary behaviorists used fear tactics on them, and they called it fear-free training, which is the fucking behind the whole thing.
They also call it force-free training, Todd, and they're forcing these dogs to take this medication.
And the thing is that's assumed. Take this out. So that's all. The marketing strategy behind that words is saying that we're forceful and that we're fear-inducing. By using those as their wordage, they're assuming that anybody that's not using those strategies is then doing that. It's a lot of the mental health strategies, even in the human world right now. The fear strategies of and it's the ability to go through stress is not allowed. And so I think I saw a video, Art. Was it a dog that finally took food from Anne in the video?
Yes.
So these people came in and said, so this dog's afraid, let's put it down?
Yep.
Fucking idiots, man. And
without meeting the dog.
Fucking idiots. That shouldn't be. This is the problem, is that it's difficult to know who to trust, because I remember being vulnerable. And if you looked like you knew what you were doing to me in a park, I'd listen to you. When I had a dog that was out of control, right?
That's how you found Linn.
That's the part that sucks. Yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's like I understand the vulnerability of those situations for people. It's just unfortunate that mindset, and then they're also combative as hell towards people like us.
You heard my voicemail.
I'll go into their world. I'll use all the positive techniques that exist in the world, right? But don't get upset because I'll also physically intervene with a dog that's hurting or being aggressive, right? Sorry, but I can help them too.
It's all about the intention of whatever you do. Even people that just use treats are, that could be bad.
Well intended, but let's see the outcomes. Can we see
the bad outcome?
Yeah. That's just funny. I'm all fired up now, but I didn't intend to go down this road, but I got all fired up about this because someone could have had a dead dog right now if they would have followed by that, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who could have a dead dog. And I get it. There are shitty trainers who use e-collars aversively or whatever it is. I get their fear, but I'm actually on their side. Like the people who say they're positive and force free, like I get it. I want to do those things too. I understand that, but I go into people's houses and I will never do anything that the people are not comfortable with. Never.
If you can't do it in front of the client, you shouldn't be able to do it at all.
100%.
No. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm just like you just said, Art. I'm not opposed to any of that. I use a lot of strategies, and it feels like most people go in strategy based. It seems like that's the majority of people go in with like a preconceived technique or tool they're going to use, and where these positive people are right is every tool can be misused. Every approach can be misused.
So can medication.
Right? Misapplied treat, misapplied correction, and misapplied positive intention or misapplied it can all be misused.
And speaking of that, Todd, so we just had our vet come in, because our vet comes to our house, and it just so happens that our vet is the same vet that this dog uses. And so she texted me. She's like, hey, I saw the notes from Gracie. I saw that she's on trazodone because of her aggression. I'm like, she's not aggressive. She's just nervous. And I was like, look, if you're not comfortable coming, I will handle her. And she's like, no, I just rather wait. So anyway, she ended up coming to see one of our other dogs. And so she looks at the notes and she was like, oh my God, this is a lot of medication. Like even the vet said that. This is a lot of medication.
And
she's like, it doesn't make any sense.
She's the vet?
She's the vet, but she's not the vet that prescribed that medication. The veterinary behaviorist did.
Oh, okay. Well, that's all they prescribe.
Right after I worked with Linn, I went to a vet, like my vet, and I sat down with him and I asked about medications. That was way, way back then. And even then, the first conversation with medications was, there's very little change in behavior, and whatever change you like, the cases that have change are supported by behavior work.
That's
So
right.
it was hard to separate what was medicine and what was the work from the behavior. And that was kind of the repeated thing over and over again. And it was like, oh, I sedated a little bit.
Well, even
You know,
for
the
humans,
go ahead.
with humans, you don't just take a pill and you're set.
Right.
You take a pill to, have you ever been driving down the road and you just accidentally hit your windshield wiper washer and it wasn't necessarily dirty, but it washed away and you're like, whoa, it's clear. That's what my view on meds are supposed to do. It's supposed to give you a clear view so that now you can do the work. You can see where you need to be and go. You can't just take the meds. You got to do other things. So giving dogs anxiety meds and still not exercising them or giving them any sort of guidance to help them is torture, because some of those meds, their side effects are agitation, irritation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want to give aggressive dog. Irritation. You ever had an itch you couldn't get to? God damn.
Or usually, I had a dog one time I got in front of it and you could see that I would put my hand over here and it would do something this way. And the lady took the dog to the vet and there was an optic nerve detached in the brain. So the dog was seeing, the vet thought, in triple. It was a really reactive dog. So obviously things like that, and those things make you dizzy. Like all this medicine and stuff can mess with your head. I don't think there's any positive effect outside. I would bet there's single-digit % positive cases.
Yeah.
Management is all the meds should be for. You do have to go somewhere. Your dog destroys the house when you leave. You have to go to work.
CBD with flower, like you could use a strong indica oil and effectively sedate these. Hey guys, have you ever seen dogs eat weed? Have you ever seen dogs eat weed?
Yes.
It's fucking hilarious, and we're missing because it sedates them so powerfully that the reality is I think if we channel this the right way, it's the answer to some of these dogs that just fly off the handle. I saw dogs eat one. The first time I didn't know a dog ate it, and I rushed him to the vet, and because the dog was just like, and it was my dog. He was just fucking.
Whose weed was it?
And I was sitting there. I'm like on the like going to the bathroom. I'm like, oh shit, got bit by. I thought he got poisoned because he was so sedated, like immediately. And I grab him. We go to the vet, and I rush in. I'm like, I'm losing him. I thought he was dying. Uh-huh. And he would be what was called taxic. He'd be in the car, and he'd be real relaxed, and all of a sudden he'd kind of have this move, and they called it taxic, where you just kind of like real flinch real hard. And so I get to the vet, and I get him on the table, and I'm like, dude, I don't know. I go, sudden onset, no flea medications. I don't think it's a bite. I've searched him. I'm not sure. And then him and the vet and I are asking a couple questions. I go, wait, could it be weed? And he grabs a book, reads through a couple of the symptoms. He goes, yes. And
everybody's still there,
dude.
And
that happened to me too.
And he made him throw up, and there was this little piece in there. And for the next few hours, he was all loopy. And then I had another dog later on eat it, but I knew it because I had seen something on the ground and then it was gone. And so I kind of knew it. It was just a little piece, and it was the same thing. And it was hours of this dog being so relaxed and so sleepy that my mind went, dude, how are we missing this for some of these cases? What did you see, Art?
Dude, it's so funny. So one day, Ann and I were sitting in the backyard, and our dog Luna is just sitting in the middle of the yard, like swaying back and forth, and her teeth are like this.
Yeah.
And we're like, what the hell's wrong with her? Like, and I was like, I don't know. Let's take her to the vet. So we go to the vet, and we're like driving there. I told Anna, I was like, it's like she's high or something. And Anna goes, oh my God, she smells like weed. I'm
Where'd
like,
she get it from?
Well, so we have some oil, some CBD oil, right? And so we had an employee that went to the house and had put some in her coffee. We didn't know. Okay. Mm-hmm. She was putting the oil in her coffee, and she spilled some, and we think she spilled some on the floor, and that's how Luna got it. But we didn't know, but there was some on her fur. And so Ann goes, she smells like weed. I'm like, but how? All the oil is up high. Well, when you get people come in your house and they see what you have, they kind of just take advantage of that stuff,
So and yours happened with oil and Art, and yours happened with actual flour.
Mine happened with that. So I even had a guy that I used to know that had these two Dobermans, and every night before bed, he would give them the little teeny tiny flake of flour. He'd put it on their tongue, and he said they just slept like fucking crazy. Now, if you read about it, it says that there's something that's unhealthy about the digestive process, and plus they have, is it more cannabinoid receptors? So they're more sensitive to marijuana than we are. You do have, that's the problem that they can face. But I tell you what I saw, there's something there.
Paranoia.
Huh. Well, the thing, the reality thing, I remember one of the funniest things with my own dog is being in a Lowe's with Mr. Pickles. And we're in the section with doors, and it was a door with a sticker of a dog walking through a doggy door, right? So it looked legit. It was like a full-size golden retriever sticker, and I can see Mr. Pickles see it, and I can see when he sees it that he's like, well, check it out, there's a dog, right? So he walks over, and he kind of walks around, and he walks around so he can get the right angle because he's going to be polite. And when he gets to this certain point, you can see in his face, it goes like, it like almost like a flinch. And in my mind, it was like, dude, could you imagine having your reality check like that? Mm-hmm. Could you imagine thinking you say, oh, like, check it out. How's it going? There's Art. Well, what the fuck? Where did Art go? And you'd be like, where did that? What the? And having to deal with things like that, to be a dog.
Yeah. I
took a dog into Home Depot, and some of those things they have in the aisle that hold product, they have the ad on the box, and this one had a guy on it. And so this dog was reacting to that. And from its perspective, it must have been the shortest human it's ever seen in its entire life. And it just, was, what the fuck is that?
Dude, when I used to live in downtown, my dog Hero, he used to bark at these little people that lived in downtown, and he would bark at them all the time. It was so embarrassing because he would bark at them all. He was he was good with everybody. But when he saw a little person, I think it freaked him out because they had the energy of an adult, but the size of a child. And it would always freak him out.
Art, you've always been the least inclusive, so it doesn't surprise me that you teach your dogs the same shit. Yeah. That's like, can my dog be racist, right? I was like, should I throw that post out there? Let's get some shit going. Can my dog be racist? Who raises dogs, men or women? Let's do that one.
Well, there you go. That's a lot of. My dog must have been beaten by a man. Why? Because he doesn't like men. Are you sure that it's not you? Because the dog just has never been around a man. They also generalize basically on what an average human looks like. That's why tall people get barked at. Why old people who walk like this get barked at, and why people who wear those like big hats. That's not. And sunglasses. I have to wear mine because they're prescription, but I'm careful. Depends on the dog's perception because it just looks like pupils to them, and that's why cameras, big pupil coming at
you. You pointed that out back when we actually had to use cameras.
Yeah.
You always, the eye of the camera was like an eye staring at them. And it's always been something that's
big dilated pupil.
Yeah. Hey, Art, so a side note, I just got a message. We're doing the TCW. We're actually doing a graduation dinner. Oh, so we're doing it out where we dress up again.
Yeah, I saw that.
We're getting they're at almost 40, so we're going into a 5th trainer. So we'll be pulling in another trainer.
Cool. Any closing thoughts, guys?
What's up?
Any closing thoughts?
I just gave you one.
Cool. Linn?
Leadership was the topic. Make sure that you understand what a leader is and what you are, and accept what you are, and then work your way to that position that you want to be for your dog.
I will. Lead yourself. Lead yourself. That's where you start with. If you want to lead your dog, lead yourself.
Lead by example is always good. So if you want your dog to be a good, a well-behaved dog, then you want to check yourself. And they're staring at you while you're sitting there eating a pint of ice cream, sad, or like me looking through the world in one spot of they're studying everything you do. So when you catch your dogs looking at you like that, just put them away and then go back to your, zone.
Spoke man of example.
I'm telling you, you don't want them studying that part of you. You don't want them seeing that level of weakness. And
obsession.
Yeah, you really don't. It comes back. So if you can be aware enough, I'm a freak with getting lost in my mind, and I've done it more than once in a day where I'll put my dogs away because the way they're looking at me, it's so critical. It could be its own topic, down the line.
Cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. Share this episode with all your friends and all your dog trainer friends or just dog friends in general. Love to hear from you. Leave a comment. And if you're on YouTube, leave a comment, like it. We'll talk to you guys next episode. Talk to you guys later.
Take care.